Hello, this is Ben Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the weekend, and I'm Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program today. The newly re-elected Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, has called for unity among Labour members in order to win the next general election in Britain. Mr. Corbyn, who used his speech at the Labour conference to lay out this program as the Labour leader, said that Labour would only be able to take on the government and fight for the people if the party is united.
There is no doubt that my election as Labour leader a year ago and re-election this month grew out of a thirst for a new kind of politics and a conviction that the old way of running the economy in the country isn't delivering for more and more people. It's not, I promise you, about me, of course, or unique to Britain, but across Europe and North America and elsewhere, people are fed up with a so-called free market system that has produced grotesque inequality, stagnating living standards, and many calamitous foreign wars without end, and a political stitch-up which leaves the vast majority of people shut out of power. Since the crash of 2008, the demand for an alternative and an end to counterproductive austerity has led to the rise of new movements and parties in one country after another. But in Britain, it's happened in a different way, in the heart of traditional politics, in the Labour Party, which is something that we should be extremely proud of. It's exactly what Labour was founded for, to be the voice of the many, of social justice and progressive change from the bottom up. But it also means it's no good harking back to the tired old economic and political fixes of 20 and 30 years ago, because they won't work anymore. The old model is broken. We're in a new era that demands a politics and economics that meets the needs of our own time. Actually, even Theresa May gets it, sort of, that people want change. That's why she stood on the steps of Downing Street and talked about the inequalities and burning injustice in today's Britain. Well, she said it. In fact, she promised a country that works not for a privileged few, but for every one of us. But even if she manages to talk the talk, there are problems about walking the walk. This isn't a new government. It's David Cameron's government repackaged with progressive slogans, but with a new, harsh, right-wing edge, taking the country backwards and dithering before the historic challenges of Brexit. Who seriously believes that the Tories could ever stand up to the privileged few? They are the party of the privileged few. Funded by the privileged few, for the benefit of the privileged few. Theirs is a party, after all, that now wants to force through an undemocratic boundary review based on an out-of-date version of the electoral register with nearly 2 million voters missing. They've dressed it up as a bid to cut the cost of politics by abolishing 50 constituencies, but the 12 million savings are dwarfed by the expense of the 260 peers David Cameron appointed at a cost of £34 million a year. It's nothing more than a cynical attempt to gerrymander the next election. And this is from a Prime Minister who was elevated to a job without a single vote being cast after a pantomime farce which saw one leading Tory after another falling on their swords. When I meet Theresa May across the dispatch box, I know that only one of us has been elected to the office they hold by the votes of 1/3 people. In any case, the Tories are simply incapable of responding to the breakdown of the old economic model, because that failed model is absolutely in their political DNA. It's what they deliver every time they're in government. Tory governments deregulate, they outsource, privatise, and they stand by as inequality grows. They've cut taxes for the privileged few, sold off our national assets to them, always on the cheap, and turned a blind eye to their chronic tax avoidance. They're so committed to the interests of the very richest, they've recruited Sir Philip Green into government as something called an efficiency czar. I'm not quite sure what an efficiency czar does, but I would simply say this. Well, government might be a bit more efficient if the super rich like Sir Philip actually paid their taxes.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister Theresa May has reiterated her commitment to ensure the government works for everybody by creating opportunities for all.
When I stood in Downing Street as Prime Minister for the first time this summer, I set out my mission to build a country that works for everyone. Today, I want to talk a little more about what that means and lay out my vision for a truly meritocratic Britain that puts the interests of ordinary working class people first. We're facing a moment of great change as a nation. As we leave the European Union, we must define an ambitious new role for ourselves in the world. That involves asking ourselves what kind of country we want to be, a confident, global trading nation that continues to play its full part on the world stage. But at the same time, I believe we have a precious opportunity to step back and ask some searching questions about what kind of country we want to be here at home too. In fact, it's not just an opportunity, but a duty, because one thing is clear. When the British people voted in the referendum, they did not just choose to leave the European Union. They were also expressing a far more profound sense of frustration about aspects of life in Britain and the way in which politics and politicians have failed to respond to their concerns. Some voted for the first time in more than 30 years, some for the first time ever. And they were inspired to do so because they saw a chance to reject the politics of business as usual and to demand real, profound change. Fed up with being ignored or told that their priorities were somehow invalid, based on ignorance and misunderstanding, or even on occasion they were simply wrong to voice the concerns that they did, they took their opportunity to send a very clear message. They will not be ignored anymore. They want to take back control of the things that matter in their lives. They want a government that listens, understands, and is on their side. They want change, and this government is going to deliver it. Everything we do will be driven not by the interests of the privileged few, not by those with the loudest voices, the special interests, the greatest wealth, or the access to influence. This government's priorities are those of ordinary working class people, people for whom life sometimes can be a struggle, but who get on with things without complaint. They get on with their jobs, sometimes 2 or even 3 of them, because they have families to feed and support, bills to pay, and because to work for a fair reward is the right thing to do. They get on with their lives quietly, going about their business, going out to work, raising families, helping neighbours, making their communities what they are. They don't ask for much, but they want to know that the people that make the big decisions are on their side, working for them. They want to believe that everyone plays by the same rules and things are fair. And above all, they want to believe that if they uphold their end of the deal, they do the right thing, they work hard, they pay their taxes, then tomorrow will be better than today, and their children will have a fair chance in life, the chance to go as far as their talents will take them. These are not outrageous demands or ridiculous desires. But for too many of these people today, life does not seem fair. They're the people who made the real sacrifices after the financial crash in 2008, though they were in no way responsible, and they wonder if others, some of whom really do bear responsibility for the crash, did the same. More than anything else, they worry, truly worry, that the changing world around them means that their children and grandchildren won't have the same opportunities they have enjoyed in life. They deserve a better deal. And to give them that, we should take this opportunity to step back and pose a fundamental question. What kind of country, what kind of society do we want to be? I am clear about the answer. I want Britain to be the world's great meritocracy, where everyone has a fair chance to go as far as their talent and their hard work will allow. I want us to be a country where everyone plays by the same rules, where ordinary working class people have more control over their lives and the chance to share fairly in the prosperity of the nation. And I want Britain to be a place where advantage is based on merit, not privilege, where it's your talent and hard work that matter, not where you were born, who your parents are, or what your accent sounds like.
Now to the United States of America, just after the first U.S. presidential debates between Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump, supporters of the two candidates have expressed different opinions on the performance of the two candidates.
On the Hofstra campus in Hempstead, New York, students and pundits scrutinized every word and movement by the two major party nominees in the first U.S. presidential debate of 2016. Once it was over, the dash to claims of victory was on.
She gave depth to her answer. She didn't hesitate. He was a counterpuncher, and like a lot of counterpunchers, when you throw your jab and it misses, you get frustrated and you press.
I think he, as the debate went on, had a hard time retaining focus. I mean, Trump had some moments where it's hard to keep track of what he was really talking about.
Republicans, including former mayor of New York Rudolph Giuliani, whose controversial security policy of stop and frisk was praised by Trump during the debate, were quick to cast Trump as better prepared to improve law and order and the economy.
She's a total phony. She was a failed Secretary of State, and what she demonstrated tonight is an incredible ignorance of the economy. How are you going to keep jobs in this country if you tax businesses more? Why would a business want to pay more taxes?
But perhaps the best form of congratulations on Donald Trump's performance came from Donald Trump himself.
Based on all of the online polls, we did tremendously well. I'm very happy that I was able to hold back on the indiscretions with respect to Bill Clinton, because I have a lot of respect for Chelsea Clinton, and I just didn't want to say what I was going to say and fully prepared to say.
But outside the spin room, many students who watched the debate on campus spoke just as passionately as the pundits.
Trump is a very good public speaker. People underestimate his power in public speaking, about him delivering his message. He's worked with thousands of workers across the country. He's dealt with construction workers all the way to high up in finance and pretty much every category of the field.
I came in undecided, but I'm more confident in my decision to vote for Hillary today. I feel like Hillary was more confident in her answers. I feel like she was more prepared. Trump basically dodged a lot of the questions that he was given. He reacted really strongly, and I thought it was a little unprofessional.
For the students at Hofstra, the campus debate will continue. Ramon Taylor.
Democrat Hillary Clinton has expressed confidence in her performance in the first presidential debate. Many polls in the U.S. claim she put Republican candidates on the offensive. The debate, which was the first of three between the two White House contenders, was thought to have been a good performance for Hillary.
Hillary Clinton appeared to have an extra spring in her step as she greeted supporters in North Carolina the day after putting in a strong performance in the first presidential debate.
Did anybody see that debate last night? Oh, yes. One down, two to go.
Clinton put Donald Trump on the defensive for much of Monday night's debate, pressing him on why he won't release his tax returns and his role in questioning President Barack Obama's citizenship.
He has really started his political activity
based on this racist lie that our first black president was not an American citizen.
Trump only recently declared he accepts that the president was born in the U.S. after years of trying to raise doubts.
And I think I did a great job and a great service, not only for the country, but even for the president in getting him to produce his birth certificate.
Secretary Clinton.
Trump told supporters in Miami he thought the debate went well, even though earlier he complained about both the debate moderator and his microphone. Trump also noted recent polls that show him gaining on Clinton.
It's been amazing, the support we're getting more and more and more. And, you know, I won Florida in the primaries, and we're doing very well now. We're leading Florida right now.
Clinton's strategy to put Trump on the defensive during the debate paid dividends, says analyst Matthew Dalek.
I think it was a pretty clear victory for her on multiple levels, and that I think it, will ultimately be seen, if I were to guess, I think it will ultimately be seen as having an impact at being an important moment in a pretty long and deeply contentious election cycle.
But Dalek says it remains to be seen how the debate will affect undecided voters.
It doesn't, I don't think, necessarily hurt him, obviously, with his core supporters, but it's hard to see how he wins over, how he grows his base of support.
Despite the positive reviews, Clinton still has work to do to address her weakness on the issue of trust, says Andra Gillespie via Skype.
She's going to have to figure out ways to craft an image of herself that is trustworthy, that has worked past some of her mistakes.
The next presidential debate is scheduled for October 9th.
Also, a confident Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has told reporters that he did better than Hillary Clinton and that he was able to hold himself back on some of the things he had planned to say about Hillary Clinton.
Mr. Trump, what did you not cover in this debate that you want to cover in the second debate?
Mr. Trump.
I love the people of Westchester. You can see that wasn't Gary Westchester. You can see that wasn't your finest hour.
Mr. Trump, what did you not cover in this debate?
Melania. Do you think
Mr. Trump, what was your favorite debate moment?
I just think it was very exciting overall, Dana. I thought the outset was great. You walk on, you don't know exactly what to expect. Based on all of the online polls, we did tremendously well.
We haven't had a real poll yet.
Well, but the online polls were fantastic. You get it. When hundreds of thousands of people are calling in and voting, and you have 80 and 90%, you sort of get it.
Anything that you wish you did differently?
No, I'm very happy that I was able to hold back on the indiscretions with respect to Bill Clinton, because I have a lot of respect for Chelsea Clinton, and I just didn't want to say what I was going to say and fully prepared to say, which is, I'll tell you maybe at the next debate. We'll see. But I'm very happy with the fact that I was able to.
What about her big moment that she clearly thought that she had in saying she was preparing for the debate, just like she's preparing to be president?
Are you conceding?
Well, I think she'd be a poor president. I don't think she'd do the job. We need somebody that's going to really be able to do the job. She doesn't have what it takes to make America great again. But we'll see how it all goes. You see the polls, you see what's going on, you see how we're doing. We are going to make America great again. Our country is in such trouble, whether it's immigration, whether it's our jobs being taken, whether it's our factories closing up all over the country, whether it's our military that's been so sadly depleted. We need help. I think it went better than I ever thought.
Did you feel lost at some point?
No, I loved it. I loved it.
Still on the United States of America, U.S. President Barack Obama has said the Museum of African American History represents the story of the struggle of black people in America till date. He said this while declaring open the museum in the White House.
Scripture promised that if we lift up the oppressed, then our light will rise in the darkness, and our night will become like the noonday. And the story contained in this museum makes those words prophecy. And that's what this day is about. That's what this museum's about. I too am American. It is a glorious story, the one that's told here. It is complicated and it is messy and it is full of contradictions, as all great stories are, as Shakespeare is, as Scripture is. And it's a story that perhaps needs to be told now more than ever. A museum alone will not alleviate poverty in every inner city or every rural hamlet. It won't eliminate gun violence from all our neighborhoods or immediately ensure that justice is always colorblind. It won't wipe away every instance of discrimination in a job interview or a sentencing hearing or folks trying to rent an apartment. Those things are up to us, the decisions and choices we make. It requires speaking out and organizing and voting until our values are fully reflected in our laws and our policies and our communities. But what this museum does show us is that even in the face of oppression, even in the face of unimaginable difficulty, America has moved forward. And so this museum provides context for the debates of our times. It illuminates them and gives us some sense of how they evolved and perhaps keeps them in proportion. Perhaps it can help a white visitor understand the pain and anger of demonstrators in places like Ferguson and Charlotte. But it can also help black visitors appreciate the fact that not only is this younger generation carrying on traditions of the past, but within the white communities across the nation, we see the sincerity of law enforcement officers and officials who, in fits and starts, are struggling to understand and are trying to do the right thing. It reminds us that routine discrimination and Jim Crow aren't ancient history. It's just a blink in the eye of history. It was just yesterday. And so we should not be surprised that not all the healing is done. We shouldn't despair that it's not all solved. And knowing the larger story should instead remind us just how remarkable the changes that have taken place truly are, just in my lifetime, and thereby inspire us to further progress. And so hopefully this museum can help us talk to each other. And more importantly, listen to each other. And most importantly, see each other. Black and white and Latino and Native American and Asian American. See how our stories are bound together. And bound together with women in America, and workers in America, and entrepreneurs in America, and LGBT Americans. And for young people who didn't live through the struggles represented here, I hope you draw strength from the changes that have taken place. Come here and see the power of your own agency. See how young John Lewis was. These were children who transformed a nation in a blink of an eye. Young people, come here and see your ability to make your mark. The very fact of this day does not prove that America's perfect, but it does validate the ideas of our founding. That this country born of change, this country born of revolution, this country of we the people, this country can get better.
With that report, we conclude the news roundup for this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I'm Tunde Alabi. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Of our continued efforts to reach the African and other ethnic communities in the United Kingdom with greater impacts and create the platform to hear your silent and unheard views in this hugely growing community in the United Kingdom, our channel, Ben TV, presents to you another live current affairs television program. Our focus on the program is to review and discuss issues around the diaspora community in the UK. The program offers you that unrestricted voice on issues affecting you in the UK. Join us live every Monday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Another business segment of Dialogue in Diaspora, 2 to 3 p.m. every Monday. But guess what? You know you can be part of the program. Just send us an email at bentelevisionuk@gmail.com. Dialogue in Diaspora, your voice, your opinion on our TV.